right, welcome back to another rousing edition of Sideline to Sideline with your hosts Chuck and Ryan.
Yeah.
I am your host Ryan Fleming, and of course, as I've already stepped all over him, our co-host here.
I can't help but notice last time we had our guest in for this episode of Sideline to Sideline, you were wearing a Buffalo Sabres shirt. Either you have a collection or you don't do much laundry, Ryan.
Well, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. I may have been sleeping on the couch lately because of my lack of laundry duties. But yes, I wanted to represent again because, as we mentioned last time we had our guest on the show, he was a childhood Buffalo Sabres fan. So
yes, he was.
That's right.
Pietrangelo joining us once again. Frank, welcome back to Sideline to Sideline. Great to have you here.
Thanks, guys. Great to be back.
Yeah, great to have you back on the show. Frank, last time we were here, we talked a little bit, actually a lot about, your coaching career and, of course, your time with Niagara Falls, the Canucks.
Yeah, with the GDB Canucks and the great season that they're having. And we want to touch this week on the pro career and then college career, too, about Frank Pietrangelo, right?
Exactly. Now, can you tell us a little bit about, your college career as well? Because you did get drafted out of college, right? Which wasn't kind of the norm for the time either.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, nowadays you see a lot more guys coming from the NCAA to the NHL. But back in the day, it wasn't as popular. I went to the University of Minnesota, just a great hockey school, was a Gopher, and proud of it, and had a great career there, had a lot of success, and met a lot of good people in Minnesota. But the Penguins drafted me out of Minnesota, and went on from there.
Fourth round pick in 1983. Was draft day for players then much like it is now? Was it anywhere close to the whole extravaganza?
Yeah, no, nothing like it, Chuck. I mean, I think I was in my dorm when a buddy of mine called me and said, "Hey, you just got drafted." We didn't have computers, there was no cell phones, there was none of that stuff. So I think they might have brought some of the first rounders somewhere, to take pictures of them or what have you. But it's just gone to a different extreme nowadays.
So when you make that jump from college to the pros, what's the biggest, difference that you notice?
Well, there's a lot of differences. It's just a whole different level. And I was very fortunate. I went, the Penguins farm team was in Muskegon at the time, and Rick Lee, Niagara Falls guy, happened to be coaching Muskegon at the time, gave me an opportunity, and he taught me the pro game more or less. He just told me, Frank, listen, there's going to be highlights every night on TV, and they don't look at the saves, they look at the goals you let in. So he corrected a lot of the mistakes I was making, the college part of it, and turned me into a pro.
Now, you spent parts of 4 seasons, I think it was, with Muskegon. Was the Fury back then?
Lumberjack.
Lumberjack.
Yeah,
Lumberjack.
Yes.
Okay. Then you come up to the Pittsburgh Penguins. You had some pretty decent teammates on those Penguin teams, Frank.
I was blessed. I mean, we realized how fortunate we were. There was 8 Hall of Famers that were my teammates in the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I bring this all the time back to my team here with Niagara Falls with the Canucks and tell them, sure, Mario Lemieux, Hall of Famer, great player. And people think that's why we won the Stanley Cup. But don't forget Paul Coffey and Brian Trottier and Larry Murphy and Joe Mullen and Mark Recchi and Ron Francis and soon to be Jaromir Jagr, all these Hall of Famers. So it takes a team to win a Stanley Cup.
Wow.
Now, you speak of all these legends in the dress or on the ice that you got to be with. Can you tell us a little bit about them, the persons? What I want to know, who was the prankster when you got there? There's always that prankster in the dressing room. Who was the prankster back then?
Still trying to figure that out, Ryan. I mean, they're very good at what they do, right? So there's all kinds of guys. Personalities are a big part of this. And one of the stories I always tell people, and I believe this, when we go back and we see each other, we're hugging and kissing and how the family and this and that, and people say, yeah, you guys are really close because you won a Stanley Cup. And I say, no, we won a Stanley Cup because we were all close. We were like a family, and that led to us being champions. So I truly believe that, and I think any team that wins, you see that first.
Tom Barrasso gets hurt. You end up going 4-1 in the playoffs in the '91 Stanley Cup run, an integral part of the championship. Was winning the Stanley Cup, Frank, everything you dreamed of as a kid?
Oh yeah, and then some. I mean, you don't, as you're going through it, you don't realize what a big deal it is because it's just another game, and you're playing every other night, and you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to do your job. You're not letting anybody down. But then with it comes the enormity of the eyes are all on us. This is a big deal, and then to finally hold that thing in your hands. I mean, we've dreamed of it, a million times in ball hockey places and playing hand hockey, whatever we were doing, and for it to become a reality was fantastic.
Now, I'd like to get a little bit into the psychology of, because at the time you were back up to Tom and you came in for him once he got injured. But what is the feeling, after, like, we talked in the earlier episode about the save, and how big of a moment that was for Pittsburgh Penguins hockey. How is it feeling having to go back onto the bench, though, and watch Tom kind of finish everything out? Is there any kind of, resentment, or is there any of a, geez, I wish I was in there? Or is it, it's all about the team?
Well, everybody wants to play. So I can't sit here and say, yeah, I didn't want to play. It's okay, you want to play. Having said that, I had a job to do, and I had to be prepared for my time to come. And like Chuck said earlier, won 4 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You don't see that anymore. Like, when does that happen? One guy usually rides it the whole way through, and I was very fortunate to be put in that position where I got an opportunity to play, and my teammates feel very confident in me as a goaltender to do the job.
Penguins repeated Stanley Cup champs in '92, but you get traded at the trade deadline to the Hartford Whalers. And by the way, before we touch on that, I want to show Ryan this. Check this out, buddy. Frank Pietrangelo in a Hartford Whalers jersey. It's got a signature on there. I got it at a flea market. I hope that's actually your signing on there, Frank. But you get traded on deadline day. What's the experience like for players when deadline day comes around in the National Hockey League? Is everybody on pins and needles? Like those who know that there's a chance they might go elsewhere?
Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable time, and obviously, every situation is different. Some people know they're going to be traded. Some have no idea. In my case, I asked to be traded. I loved Pittsburgh. They drafted me, and I was there for 7 years. But Bob Johnson was our coach. We won the Stanley Cup. He passed away, and Scotty Bowman took over, and it just didn't seem to have the confidence in me that Bob did and some of the other coaches had. So I just thought it was best for my career to move on somewhere where I get an opportunity to play a little bit more hockey.
And what was that like moving on? Going to a new city, new system, new coaching, new teammates. Is it hard to get acclimated? Is it like coming up from the juniors again?
It's tough. I won't lie to you. I mean, going to Hartford from Pittsburgh is night and day. Because it wasn't a huge hockey market. Obviously, there's no more NHL team there anymore, but it just didn't have the fanfare. It didn't have the same thing as the Pittsburgh team did, and we had all the superstars in Pittsburgh compared to what we had in Hartford. So it was definitely a big adjustment to make. Having said that, got a chance to play some big games and a few more years in a Hartford Whaler uniform, and now they're bringing back that beautiful green uniform in Carolina.
Isn't that sharp? That is your signature on there, right?
That's me. Good job, Chuck.
Hey, there you go. Greg, you end up your career with the Whalers in '94, and then a really interesting experience that more and more guys, including a lot of Niagara natives, are doing. You played for several seasons in various European leagues.
Yeah, that was truly a great experience. Got a chance to Bob Mano, another Niagara Falls guy, was coaching over in Bolzano, Italy. And their goaltender had retired and asked me if I was interested in playing. And I was out of hockey for about a year at that time. I had a knee surgery and I'd broken my finger, and I thought I was retired. And he says, "Well, come on over here, see if you like it." And me and my wife went over.
Was that a hard,
little visit? And it was just
for you
beautiful.
to make?
This is not a bad thing.
So many different athletes.
So anyway, went and got 5 more years out of hockey, playing in Italy and playing in Manchester, England. Problem came with kids,
was that a difficult decision for you,
education, all the rest of the stuff. And just felt it was time to hang
projecting, going that way.
Yeah, you know what, Ryan? I think I was prepared for it. I think inside there's so much work that goes into being a professional athlete, physically, mentally, preparation, year-round, not just by yourself, but your family and sacrifices you make. And when you're not willing to make those sacrifices anymore, you're losing that edge, plain and simple, and it's time to give it up. And I was at that point. The ambition just wasn't there anymore. The drive wasn't there anymore, and it was just time to get on to something else. But I knew I was going to stay in hockey. I knew hockey was my passion, and I had something to give back, so that's what I did.
Yeah, Frank, again, congratulations on the success with the Niagara Falls Canucks, and congratulations on the success you had as a pro. You've been and done what millions of Canadian kids grew up dreaming about, so way to go on that, and thanks a lot for joining us here.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. Again, for Frank, for Chuck, I'm Ryan. This has been another edition of Sideline to Sideline. And with that, we're out of here.